Adiz Okonkwo stood before her dormitory mirror, adjusting the simple blue dress Bena had bought her last month. At 19, she was a second-year law student at the University of Nigeria. Nsukka, studying on a full scholarship that was her family's only hope. "You look beautiful," her roommate Chinyu said from her bed, but her tone carried worry. "Are you sure about tonight? Something feels off about Tobe lately." "Don't start," Ada laughed, touching the small silver necklace Tobe had given her. "He loves me, Chinyu. He wants to introduce me to his family soon. His father is the governor of Enugu State, Ada. Men like that don't let their sons marry girls from Agbani village." Ada's smile faltered slightly, but she pushed the doubt away. Tobe wasn't like other rich boys. For 8 months, he had been different, attentive, loving, full of promises about their future together. Her phone buzzed. "Outside, we're something nice. Tonight is special. Tea." 20 minutes later, she sat beside Tobe in his Range Rover as they drove through the dark roads leading out in Nsukka. Instead of heading to the restaurant he'd mentioned, they turned toward his father's private estate. "I thought we were going to dinner?" Ada asked. "Change of plans," Tobe said, his voice oddly flat. "I want us to have privacy. Real privacy." Something in his tone made Ada's stomach tighten, but she told herself she was being paranoid, listening too much to Chinyu's warnings. The estate was massive, 10 acres of manicured lawns, a main house that looked like a palace, and several guest cottages scattered across the property. Tobe parked near one of the cottages and led her inside. The moment they entered, Ada knew something was wrong. The cottage was too perfectly prepared. Champagne on ice, rose petals on the bed, soft music playing. But there was something calculated about it, something that felt more like a stage than a romantic gesture. "Tobe, what's going on?" "What's going on?" A female voice said from the bedroom doorway. "Is that you're in my fiancé's cottage." Ada spun around. A young woman stood there, beautiful and polished, wearing designer clothes, an engagement ring that could fund Ada's entire education. "Who?" Ada started, but Tobe cut her off with a laugh, a cruel sound she'd never heard from him before. "Ada, meet Adaora," he said casually. "Senator Okoro's daughter. My actual fiancée. We're getting married in 3 months." The world tilted. "What? Tobe, is this a joke?" "No joke," he said, pouring himself champagne. "Though you were entertaining for a while. I'll give you that." Adaora looked Ada up and down with disdain. "This is a village girl? Tobe, you promised you'd ended this before I arrived." "I did. Tonight." He turned to Ada, and his face held no trace of the man she'd loved. "You didn't actually think we had a future, did you? Look at you. Look at where you come from. You were a distraction, Ada. Nothing more." Rage and heartbreak collided in Ada's chest. "You told me you loved me. You said we'd build a life together. And you believed it." Tobe laughed. "That's what makes it so pathetic." Ada slapped him. The sound echoed in the cottage, and everything changed. Tobe's face transformed into something monstrous. He grabbed her arm with brutal force. "You don't touch me," he hissed. "Tobe, let her go," Adaora said nervously. "Just let her leave." But something had snapped in Tobe. Years of privilege, of never being told no, of believing himself above consequences. It all surfaced in an explosion of violence. The first punch caught Ada across the face. She fell, and he followed her down, raining blows on her ribs, her back, her head. She tried to scream, but his hand covered her mouth. "You're nothing," he snarled with each blow. "Nobody. From nowhere. Who do you think will believe you over me?" Adaora screamed for him to stop, but she didn't intervene. She just watched, horrified but passive. Ada felt her ribs crack, felt warm blood running down her face. The world started going dark at the edges. Tobe finally stopped, breathing hard, standing over her broken body. "Take her somewhere far from the main house," he told his driver, who had appeared at some point. "Somewhere it'll take time to find her. If anyone finds her." Ada tried to speak, to move, but her body wouldn't respond. She felt herself being lifted, carried, dumped into darkness. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness took her was Tobe's voice. "Clean this up." She was never here. This is absolutely devastating. Can you believe the betrayal and violence? If this story is hitting you hard, smash that like button and subscribe to African Tales by Zion right now. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Next chapter shows how Ada survived the impossible. You won't want to miss it. Turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next chapter. 3 days later, Adiz Okonkwo woke up in a hospital bed with no memory of how she got there. Every breath sent lightning bolts of pain through her chest. Her head felt like it was splitting open. "She's awake," a familiar voice cried. Chinyu appeared at her bedside, tears streaming down her face. "Thank God, Ada. Thank God." "What happened?" Ada's voice was a broken whisper. "I found you," Chinyu said, gripping her hand. "I followed you that night because I had a bad feeling. I saw Tobe's car leave the estate, and I searched until I found you in a drainage ditch 2 kilometers away. You weren't breathing. The doctor said it's a miracle you survived." The memories came flooding back, and with them, a wave of pain that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. A nurse entered. "Miss Okonkwo, there are people here to see you. Very important people." Before Ada could respond, the hospital room filled with men in expensive suits. At the center was Governor Ichi Nambi himself, tall, imposing, with cold eyes that assessed her like a problem to be solved. "Miss Okonkwo," he said smoothly, "what a terrible accident you've had." "It wasn't an accident," Ada said, her voice gaining strength. "Your son tried to kill me." The governor smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "My son was at a political dinner that night. I have 50 witnesses. What you experienced was a tragic accident. Perhaps you fell while walking alone at night. You were alone," the governor interrupted, his voice hardening. "And your family is very poor, I understand. Your father works as a taxi driver in Enugu. Your mother sells vegetables at Ojij Market. Your 3 younger siblings are in school, fees unpaid." The threat hung in the air like poison. Ada's father, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, stood up, a small man with calloused hands and dignity in his worn clothes. "My daughter will press charges. We don't care about your money or your threats." Governor Namdi turned his cold gaze to Ada's father. "Mr. Okonkwo, I admire your principles. Truly, but principles don't pay school fees. They don't put food on the table. I'm prepared to offer your family 10 million naira to help Ada recover from this unfortunate accident. We don't want your blood money," Ada's father said firmly. The governor's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "That's unfortunate. I had hoped we could resolve this quietly." He left, taking his entourage with him. 2 days later, Ada's father was arrested. The charges: embezzling money from the taxi cooperative he worked with. The evidence was fabricated, but it didn't matter. Governor Namdi owned the police, the judges, the entire system. Then Chinyu's family's market stall burned down. An electrical fault. The doctor who had admitted Ada and documented her injuries suddenly transferred to a hospital in Abuja. All his records of that night mysteriously lost. Ada lay in her hospital bed, broken and terrified, understanding with perfect clarity they would kill her. It was only a matter of time. Chinyu arrived late one night, breathless and scared. "We have to get you out. Tonight." "How?" "I can barely walk." "Dr. Delik, the young resident who's been treating you. He's willing to help. He said what they're doing is evil, and he won't be part of it." Dr. Adelik appeared an hour later with a wheelchair and forged discharge papers. "I'm documenting that you died of complications from your injuries," he explained quickly. "Respiratory failure. I'll file a death certificate. It's the only way to protect you and your family. My family will be told the truth by a trusted intermediary. But to the world, to the governor, you'll be dead. It's the only way you survive this." Ada was smuggled out through a service exit, wrapped in blankets, barely conscious from pain medication. Chinyu's uncle, a priest who asked no questions, drove them through the night to Enugu's international airport. Chinyu pressed documents into Ada's hand. A passport, a plane ticket to London, and an envelope of cash. "This is everything I've saved. My uncle has a friend in London who will help you. Ada, you have to disappear completely. What about my family? My father is in jail because of me. Your father wanted this. He told me to get you out, no matter what. He said you're the smart one, the one who will make something of herself. He said to tell you, justice delayed is not justice denied. Come back when you're strong enough to fight. Ada wept, clinging to her best friend. I'll come back, Chinyu. I swear it. One day, I'll make them pay for everything. I know you will, Chinyu whispered. Now go, before they realize you're gone. As the plane lifted off from Nigerian soil 3 hours later, Ada looked down at the lights of the country she was leaving behind. She was 19 years old, broken in body and spirit, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a burning need for justice. She touched her swollen face, felt her broken ribs, and made herself a promise. She would survive. She would heal. She would become everything they said she couldn't be. And one day, she would return to destroy the man who tried to kill her. Wow, the corruption and evil is unbelievable. If you're as angry as I am right now, like this video and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment, do you think Ada can really come back and get justice after all this? Next chapter jumps 15 years into the future, and you will not believe Ada's transformation. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. See you soon. London, 2025. The law offices of Blackstone and Associates gleamed with understated power, glass, steel, and the quiet confidence of those who represented the world's most important cases. In the corner office with a view of the Thames, Zoe Adelik reviewed case files with the precision of a surgeon. At 34, she was unrecognizable from the broken girl who had fled Nigeria 15 years ago. Her natural hair, once relaxed and damaged, now formed a halo of perfectly maintained locks. Plastic surgery had subtly altered her facial structure, softened her nose, refined her cheekbones, not for vanity but for invisibility. She wore designer glasses she didn't need. She'd adopted her deceased mother's maiden name and a middle name that had never appeared on any official document. Most importantly, she had spent 15 years becoming one of the most formidable human rights lawyers in Europe, specializing in prosecuting the powerful for crimes they thought they'd escaped. Her phone rang. Her senior partner, Malcolm Blackstone, appeared on the screen. Zoe, we have a situation. The International Justice Initiative needs a lead prosecutor for a massive corruption case in Nigeria. Government officials' embezzlement, cover-ups of serious crimes. It's high-profile and dangerous. Zoe's hand tightened on her phone. Who are the defendants? Senator Ichi Namdi and his son, Representative Tabena Namdi. 15 years of waiting. 15 years of preparation. The moment had finally arrived. I'll take it, Zoe said, her voice perfectly calm despite her racing heart. Zoe, this is personal for you, isn't it? Malcolm had always been perceptive. Every case is personal, Malcolm. That's what makes me good at my job. 2 weeks later, Zoe stepped off a plane at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Nigeria's heat hit her like a physical force, along with a wave of memories she'd spent years learning to control. The Nnamdi case had exploded across Nigerian media. Multiple victims had come forward. Business people whose companies were destroyed, families forcibly removed from land, women who had been abused and silenced. The evidence was overwhelming. But the Nnamdi family remained arrogant, confident that power would protect them as it always had. Zoe's first court appearance was a preliminary hearing. The courtroom was packed with journalists and spectators. At the defense table sat Senator Nnamdi, older now, but still exuding cold authority, and his son Tabena. Tobe had aged well, his privilege preserved in expensive suits and the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. He sat casually, occasionally smirking at his lawyer's comments, treating the entire proceeding like a minor inconvenience. As Zoe entered the courtroom, her heels clicking on marble floors, Tobe's eyes passed over her, without recognition. To him, she was just another lawyer, another obstacle to be overcome with money and influence. During the recess, Zoe found herself in the courthouse hallway, reviewing documents. Tobe walked past with his legal team, laughing about something. He stopped, backtracked. "Excuse me, are you the prosecutor?" The London lawyer. Zoe looked up, meeting his eyes for the first time in 15 years. I am. You're wasting your time, he said with casual arrogance. My family has survived bigger storms than this. Whatever they're paying you, it's not worth the disappointment. I'm not in this for the money, Mr. Namdi. Then you're a fool, he laughed. Everyone has a price. What's yours? Zoe smiled coldly. Justice. Unfortunately for you, that's not for sale. He studied her face, a flicker of something, confusion? Recognition? Crossing his features. Have we met before? You seem familiar. I don't believe so, Zoe said smoothly. I would remember. He shrugged and walked away, already dismissing her from his mind. Zoe watched him go, her hands perfectly steady despite the rage burning in her chest. Soon, she thought, very soon, you'll remember exactly who I am. That evening, Zoe met with Chinyu for the first time in 15 years. Her old friend had become a successful businesswoman, and she wept when she saw Ada alive and transformed. I can't believe it's really you, Chinyu said, gripping her hands. We had a funeral. Ada, I stood at your grave. I know. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you I was alive. Your father never gave up believing you'd come back. He died 5 years ago, still telling people you were the smart one, the one who would make them all proud. Pain lanced through Zoe's heart. I wanted to come back sooner, but I had to be ready. I had to be strong enough to fight them. Are you ready now? Zoe thought about the evidence she'd gathered, the witnesses she prepared, the case she'd built with meticulous care. Yes, it's time to bring them down. The trial will begin in 1 week, and when it did, Tabena Namdi would finally learn that the girl he left for dead had survived, thrived, and returned as his judge, jury, and executioner. Justice had been delayed for 15 years, but it would not be denied. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Ada is back, and she's ready for war. If you're excited for the showdown, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment below. What do you think will happen when Tobe realizes who she really is? Next chapter is the big reveal and courtroom confrontation. You absolutely cannot miss it. Turn on notifications, and let's finish this story together. See you in the next chapter. The Federal High Court in Abuja had never seen anything like it. For 3 weeks, prosecutor Zoe Adeli had been systematically dismantling the Nambi family's empire of corruption and lies. Each day brought new revelations, forged documents, witness intimidation, money laundering, land seizures that destroyed entire families. The evidence was overwhelming, presented with such precision and legal brilliance that even the Nambi family's expensive lawyers struggled to counter it. But the defendants remained confident. Senator Namdi sat unmoved, occasionally whispering to his lawyers. Tobe maintained his arrogant demeanor, sometimes smirking at the proceedings as if they were beneath him. On the 22nd day of trial, Zoe stood before the packed courtroom and said, Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence of a crime that connects to this case. A crime from 15 years ago that demonstrates the pattern of violence and cover-up that defines the Namdi family. The judge nodded. Proceed, counselor. In December 2010, a 19-year-old university student was brutally beaten and left for dead on the grounds of the governor's private estate in Enugu. She suffered a fractured skull, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding, and multiple contusions. The attack was perpetrated by the defendant's son, Tabena Namdi. Tobe's lawyer shot up. Your Honor, this is completely irrelevant to the current charges. It's absolutely relevant, Zoe interrupted coldly. It establishes pattern of behavior. It shows how this family has used power to cover up violent crimes for decades. The victim in that supposed attack died of her injuries. Tobe's lawyer argued. There's a death certificate on file. Yes, Zoe said quietly. There is. But death certificates can be fake when you own the system. She pressed a button, and the courtroom screen came alive with images. Hospital photos of a young woman's battered face. Medical reports detailing catastrophic injuries. A police report that had been buried and lost. The victim's name was Adiz Okonkwo. Zoe continued. She was studying law at the University of Nigeria. She was dating the defendant, who brought her to his father's estate, revealed his engagement to another woman, and when she objected, he beat her nearly to death. The courtroom murmured. Journalists frantically typed notes. Her best friend found her in a drainage ditch, not breathing. By miracle, she survived. But when her family tried to press charges, Senator Namdi used his power to silence them. The victim's father was falsely arrested. Witnesses were intimidated. The treating physician was transferred, and all his documentation disappeared. "This is speculation," Tobe's lawyer shouted. "I have the physician's testimony," Zoe said calmly. Dr. Adelik has agreed to testify about how he was pressured to destroy records and falsify a death certificate. On the screen, a video began playing. Dr. Adelik, now gray-haired but clear-eyed, describing what he'd witnessed 15 years ago. Senator Namdi leaned forward, whispering urgently to his lawyers. For the first time, he looked concerned. Tobe, however, looked bored. "Even if this happened, which I deny, how is it relevant? The girl is dead." "That's what you were supposed to believe," Zoe said. Something in her tone made the courtroom go silent. "You left her for dead in that ditch, Mr. Namdi. You went on with your life, never thinking about the girl whose dreams you shattered. You married Senator Okoro's daughter, though that marriage ended in divorce after allegations of domestic violence. You continued your life of privilege, believing yourself untouchable." Zoe approached the witness stand slowly, deliberately. But Adiz Okonkwo didn't die. She fled to London. She changed her name. She changed her appearance. She spent 15 years becoming one of the most accomplished human rights lawyers in the world. She specialized in prosecuting powerful men who thought they were above the law. Tobe's face began to change, confusion mixing with the first hint of fear. "And when she heard that you and your father were finally being brought to trial, she volunteered to lead the prosecution, because some debts can only be paid with justice." Zoe reached up and slowly removed her glasses. Then she removed her barrister's wig, revealing her face fully for the first time. "Do you remember me now, Tabena?" The courtroom erupted in gasps and shocked exclamations. Tobe stood up, his face draining of all color. No, you died. I saw the death certificate. You're supposed to be dead." Zoe finished calmly. "I was supposed to be, just like all your other victims were supposed to stay silent, stay intimidated, stay buried under your family's power." She turned to address the entire courtroom, her voice strong and clear. "My name is Adiz Okonkwo. 15 years ago, this man tried to kill me because I had the audacity to believe his lies, to trust his love, and to demand accountability when he revealed his betrayal. He left me broken and bleeding, assuming I would die quietly like all inconvenient women before me." Senator Namdi was on his feet now, face red with rage. "This is a setup. This entire trial is a personal vendetta. Your Honor, this prosecutor has a clear conflict of interest." "The conflict of interest," the judge said coldly, "is that you and your son have spent decades committing crimes and using your power to escape justice. Counselor Adelik, or should I say Ms. Okonkwo, has presented overwhelming evidence of systematic corruption. Her personal history with the defendant only strengthens the pattern of behavior she's established." Zoe presented more evidence. DNA from the attack scene that matched Tobe. Hospital records that matched her current bone structure, showing old fractures. Testimony from Chinyu, who had seen everything. Bank records showing the bribes paid to cover up the crime. The defense crumbled. Tobe's arrogance shattered. He sat down heavily, staring at Zoe as if she were a ghost risen to haunt him. "You made me into this," Zoe said quietly, directly to him. "Every blow you struck, every threat your family made, every moment you thought you'd gotten away with destroying me, it all became fuel. You tried to kill a poor village girl with dreams of justice. Instead, you created the lawyer who would bring down your entire corrupt empire." As court adjourned for the day, Tobe was led away in handcuffs on new charges: attempted murder, assault, witness intimidation. The courtroom buzzed with shock and excitement. Senator Namdi pushed past journalists, his face a mass of fury. But for the first time in his life, his power couldn't protect him. Outside the courthouse, Zoe stood before a bank of cameras and gave a statement that would be broadcast across Nigeria. To every victim who was told to stay silent, to every family that was intimidated into accepting injustice, to every woman who was hurt by powerful men, I see you. I believe you. And justice may be delayed, but it will not be denied. Oh my God, the reveal. Did you see Tobe's face when he realized who she was? If this gave you chills, smash that like button now and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Comment. What punishment do you think Tobe and his father deserve? Next chapter is a finale where justice is finally served. And trust me, it's so satisfying. Turn on notifications because you do not want to miss the ending. See you for the final chapter. The final week of the trial was unlike anything Nigerian legal history had witnessed. After Ada's revelation, the floodgates opened. Women who had been abused by Tobe came forward. Families whose land had been seized testified. Business owners whose companies had been destroyed shared their stories. The Namdi family's corruption network unraveled thread by thread, revealing decades of systematic abuse of power. Senator Namdi attempted one final play. On the second-to-last day of trial, Ada received a visitor at her hotel. A man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. "Miss Okonkwo," he said smoothly, "Senator Namdi asked me to deliver a message. He's prepared to offer you 50 million naira to reconsider your testimony. Additionally, he can ensure your father's name is cleared of all charges posthumously." Ada looked at him with cold contempt. "My father died in poverty because of your employer's lies. Money won't bring him back, and I'm not for sale. Everyone has a price, Miss Okonkwo. I did once. 15 years ago, that price was love, trust, and a future. Your employer's son destroyed all of that. Now my price is justice, and that's not something he can afford." The messenger left, and 2 hours later, 3 men tried to force their way into Ada's hotel room. They were met by her security detail, provided by the International Justice Initiative, and arrested immediately. The next morning, Ada presented evidence of the attempted bribery and intimidation to the court. It was a final nail in the Namdi family's coffin. On the last day of trial, both sides presented their closing arguments. The defense tried desperately to paint Ada as a vengeful woman pursuing a personal vendetta. They questioned her credibility, her motives, her transformation. When Ada stood for her closing argument, the courtroom was so silent you could hear people breathing. "The defense wants you to believe this case is about revenge," she began. "They're right, but not the way they think. This case is about a system that allowed powerful men to brutalize the vulnerable with impunity. It's about corruption so deep that a 19-year-old girl had to fake her death to survive. It's about justice delayed for 15 years because the accused believed their wealth and status placed them above the law." She walked slowly in front of the jury, making eye contact with each member. "I am one person who survived, but the evidence shows dozens who didn't. Families destroyed, lives ruined, women silenced, all because these men believed they were untouchable. The question before you isn't whether I have the right to seek justice. It's whether you have the courage to deliver it." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the foreman's voice was steady and clear. On all count of corruption, embezzlement, abuse of power, witness intimidation, and obstruction of justice, guilty. On the additional charges of attempted murder and assault against the D's, Okonkwo, guilty. The courtroom erupted. Journalists rushed to file stories. Spectators cheered. Victims wept with relief and vindication. Senator Ichi Namdi sat frozen, his empire crashing around him. Tabena Namdi dropped his head into his hands, the weight of consequences finally landing on his shoulders. At sentencing, the judge addressed both defendants directly. "You had every advantage: wealth, education, power, privilege. You chose to use those advantages to hurt others, to destroy lives, to place yourselves above the law. The damage you've caused is incalculable." He turned to Tobe. "Tabena Namdi, you are sentenced to 25 years in prison without possibility of early parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to all identified victims." Then to the senator, "Ichi Namdi, your crimes are even more egregious because you used public office and public trust to commit them. You are sentenced to 30 years in prison without possibility of parole. All assets obtained through corrupt means will be seized and distributed to victims. As guards led them away, Tobe looked back at Ada one final time. His face showed something she'd never expected to see: genuine remorse. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for what I did to you, for everything." Ada met his eyes. "Your apology doesn't erase what you did, but I hope you spend the next 25 years becoming the kind of person who would never do it again." After the verdict, Ada gave a press conference on the courthouse steps, surrounded by other victims who had found the courage to testify. "This victory isn't mine alone," she said. "It belongs to every person who refused to accept that justice was only for the powerful. It belongs to my father, who taught me that principles matter more than comfort. It belongs to my best friend Chinyu, who saved my life when I should have died. And it belongs to every victim still waiting for their day in court." A reporter called out, "What's next for you, Ms. Okonkwo?" Ada smiled, a real smile, free of the weight she'd carried for 15 years. "I'm opening a free legal clinic in Enugu for people who can't afford lawyers, for victims who think no one will believe them, for anyone who needs someone to fight for them the way others fought for me." 6 months later, the Adiz Okonkwo Justice Center opened in a modest building in Enugu. Its walls were covered with photos of Ada's father, Chinyu, Dr. Adelik, and all the others who had helped her survive and return. On opening day, Ada stood in the center's main room, looking at the faces of people who had come seeking help. People who looked like she had once looked, afraid, hurt, but desperately hoping for justice. "Welcome," she told them. "You're safe here, and we're going to fight for you." That evening, Ada visited her father's grave for the first time since returning to Nigeria. She knelt beside the simple headstone and placed fresh flowers. "I did it, Papa," she whispered. "I came back strong enough to fight. Justice was delayed, but it wasn't denied. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure others get the justice they deserve too." The sun set over Enugu, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. Ada stood at her father's grave, feeling the weight of 15 years finally lift from her shoulders. She had survived the impossible. She had transformed pain into power. She had proven that justice, though delayed, could never truly be denied. And now, she would spend the rest of her life ensuring that no other vulnerable person would have to wait 15 years for their moment of justice. The girl who was left for dead had become the woman who could never be silenced. The end. Wow! What an incredible journey from victim to victor. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in justice, smash that like button and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Share this video with everyone who needs to hear that survivors can thrive and justice can prevail. Comment below, what was your favorite moment from this entire story? What other powerful African stories should I tell next? Thank you so much for watching this powerful tale of resilience, revenge, and redemption. Remember, you are stronger than what tried to break you, and justice may be delayed, but it will never be denied. Until next time, this is African Tales by Zion. Stay strong, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next story. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful tale.